think everyone's repeat here. Oh, yep, start the recording. Thank you, whoever clicked that button. Cool. So first thing on the agenda, we've got our outstanding RFCs review, which I handily have pulled up here already. I'll just start from the top. So we have this proposal from last week to have a standard interface for remote debugging. And I believe we had some questions on that last week. Let me pull it up here. So I think last week the request was to add some examples. So since I submitted this one, I went in and added this section here with some examples kind of how the different settings could work. I don't think we've got any other comments on this particular RFC, so I don't know if anyone on the line has thoughts on this. Feel free to discuss now for a minute.
There was also a discussion of the difference between BP underscore and BPL underscore and
Right.
how much we needed to conform to that standard and whatnot.
Right. So I did look into that a little bit, and I don't see anything that specifically says you have to do that. There is some language in the Buildpacks spec that instructs the lifecycle to not modify those particular variables. So BP underscore for during build time and BPL underscore during runtime or launch time. So there is some precedent for that in the spec, but it's not something that says like you have to name all your, Buildpack specific variables that way. So there is potential that if we wanted to, we could use BP gbug for everything versus BPL. I think that's certainly something that we could entertain. There are strong feelings one way or another. So yeah, if you have thoughts on that one, maybe drop a comment in on this particular RFC and we can discuss that more offline.
Thing that I was thinking about around this is there was like recently some discussion on the Go module bomb RFC around naming configuration variables this way, like so and so enabled, and then whether that was going to default to true or false, and sort of like what the overall user experience would be here. And I was wondering if there's a discussion at all in this RFC about whether this would always default to false, or anything around that.
I don't recall off the top of my head if I believe it was set to default false. Yeah, so if the flag is absent or set to a non-true value at build time, then you would not include the additional software. And yeah, right here. Essentially, I think that answers what you're, and I think that's consistent with what the discussion was on that other thread, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I know there's like maybe like two. I think David and I looked across the Java build packs. I think there was like maybe two variables where we weren't following the convention that was discussed on that thread. I think where the default behavior was true or something like something that was slightly different. I'm not sure there's an easy way to rectify that, at least because those variables are well established at this point. But I certainly, in general, I agree with what's on that thread. It's nice to have a consistency with how those are interpreted. Cool. Any other thoughts on this one, this remote debugging RFC? Or we can head back to the list. Cool. This next one is Forest auto-generated reference docs. How are things looking here?
They're looking pretty good. I put together a spike that would parse out the README along with the configuration, sort of trying to see how feasible it was. That is live, and I pinged pretty much everyone that was in the thread that was discussing parsing the README. Dan, I see that you have responded. I'm just gonna wait to get a couple more responses, have some people take a look, and if everyone is on board, then I will take some time, crack open this RFC, make some changes to it again, and we can move forward.
Cool. Yeah, your the spike looked good to me. It was pretty much what I had envisioned in terms of being able to exclude sections and stuff. All right, any other thoughts or questions on this one? Okay, so we have the next one is the this is Go Team specific Go Bomb RFC. Is there someone that wants to anything we need to say about this particular one?
I think I just took a look at this earlier. I think the only thing that's preventing a merge is that there are still change requests open by Frankie. If they could take a look at it, and we can just move that.
I'll do that.
Okay, great. Next one is Java team. We have a proposal for a low profile mode in memory calculator. This one I think is just about ready to be merged. We've been trying to gather as much feedback as possible. And a couple other things have kind of jumped priority, so I haven't gotten to wrapping this up yet, but very soon this one should get merged in. And then last one, we have the semantic versioning tags RFC. I believe we had approvals on this one. Everybody was okay with the way this was worded. I know there were a couple points. I think Forrest had mentioned one that we wanted to clarify. It looked like they responded on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I need to approve this, and then I think we might be able to merge. Cool. And then I guess we'll get some issues open for that for implementation so that we can track that. That's all the open RCs. Are there any other RCs people that we missed? Cool. All right, our next standing item, we have libcnb version 2 updates and questions. So there was some progress on that this past cycle. I saw Ryan submitted another PR to make some changes with, shoot, I'm forgetting off the top of my head. I think it was changing the build and detect from being structs to functions, and that got merged in. And I believe all the open issues were addressed. Let me flip over to libcnb.
I guess it's kind of unclear to me how this whole thing is going to play out as far as like what makes it into a V2 versus what doesn't. I kind of put together the PR as like, here's an example of how I think this could be a better API. And then Sam just like merged it with no questions asked or no conversation. And I'm fine with that. I got the outcome I was looking for, but I kind of expected there to be like a more of a conversation about like whether or not this is actually the API we want. So yeah, I don't really know how that's supposed to play out. I just was surprised that it just got merged.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I looked over like a couple of our Java Buildpacks to see how it would affect them, and it's really like there's going to be some code changes that have to happen, but it's not like it's just syntax changes really. It's not changing the structure of anything. So I didn't have any issues with it. It seemed fine to me. I would assume if Sam approved it, that he probably felt the same way with the build packs that he's doing.
All right. I mean, that is my plan, is to just kind of keep throwing out like, I think this could be better if it looks this way, or I think we can remove these APIs. Hopefully folks have time to like look at those things before they just get merged. That's my only concern.
Yeah, that might be something to bring up. I think we have a BAT team meeting on Friday. We can try to raise that point up and just make sure that he's giving them enough time for discussion before they get merged. I do think it's being kind of a alpha branch. If something got merged prematurely, it wouldn't be the end of the world to roll it back either. But it does seem like things are moving along, so that's good. I posted the question on logging. I didn't really see any comments on that, so I'll probably at some point here soon submit a PR just to make that change. But if you do have any thoughts, feel free to add those on this particular issue here.
I maybe have a broader question, which is logging a concern that libcmb should care about? But you know, maybe as something for the BAT sub-team.
Yeah. It's such a minimal logging interface. It's very Spartan. I don't know if we could get by, like, I don't know if there's some sort of I don't know, go well enough if there's like a logging like interface that we could use that doesn't actually have an implementation. You know, then that individual build pack authors could then supply the implementation, and that way logging works more to their spec. There is some logging that happens in libcmb, so like it has to be able to do something with that.
I would maybe then pose the further question of like, should there be things that libcmb is logging?
I've found it to be helpful because it logs like it's one of the few places where you can see, like, when there's detect issues, it will log the build plans and things like that as it's writing them out. And it's a lot of information, but when you're in a situation where you're like, oh, okay, why is this weird detect problem happening or something like that, being able to like see that information in the flow has been useful. Not an everyday thing, but when it's there, it's helpful.
That almost sounds like a lifecycle feature. To be like, hey,
Right.
Can I pass to the lifecycle a -- debug flag wherein if detect fails, it would just print out all of the build plans?
Yeah, I wish the like -v flag would explain the detection process better. It really doesn't. It's like when a detection fails, or like one of the plan attempts fails, it just says failed. It doesn't really tell you like what the full plan it tried was, and you know, so you could see like why it didn't work. Yeah, that would be a nice improvement. Okay. Any other thoughts on this update? I don't think we have anything else on the agenda unless there's last minute additions. Cool. All right. Short meeting today. Thanks everyone for joining, and I will stop the recording.